So welcome everyone to the meeting. So I'll give a brief overview of Write the Docs Kenya and who our identity is as a community. So Write the Docs Kenya is a community that focuses more on communication for developers. And the main form of communication is through writing. So we help nurture developers and tech enthusiasts on how they can communicate better through writing, whether it's technical writing, API docs, docs as code, as today's session is, we're going to learn about docs as code. So we just advocate on building more communication in terms of developers, because we all know the importance of documentation as developers. So we are part of Write the Docs, the global Write the Docs community. And as the global Write the Docs community, we are also dedicated to providing a safe, inclusive, welcoming, and harassment-free space to express for all community participants. So this is a safe place. Feel welcome to this session. We're all here to learn and build ourselves as we move on. So today's session will be focusing on docs as code. We previously had more sessions coming up on API docs and other more interesting sessions. So today we have Adrienne Moherek with us. So she'll be sharing more around the topic of docs as code. So Adrienne is developer experience technical lead for Cisco DevNet. She works on improving API document experience. So this includes working closely across teams to ensure DevNet delivers quality developer documents so that developers can easily get started with Cisco APIs. So I would give up much about her. I'll give her a chance to explain more about herself as she sets us off the session. Welcome.
Thank you, Clifford. And thank you everyone for being here today. I really appreciate you taking the time off from your Saturday to learn about Markdown. And I have a short presentation for you. It's going to be very introductory to Markdown. So if you've never used Markdown before, you have no experience, you're not familiar with it, then this session is for you. I'll go ahead and share my screen and we'll go ahead and get started with the presentation. Let's see. Share. And let's see. Oh, let me swap displays. There we go. All right. Introduction to Markdown. So a little bit about me. My name is Adrienne Moherek. I work with Cisco and I'm on the DevNet team, which is Cisco's developer program. My primary focus is to onboard new developer documentation onto the DevNet website. I've created a process and a checklist to ensure that the documents on the website meet our minimum requirements. And I also work closely with our API experience team to ensure that the APIs that Cisco builds meet our standards going forward. And also a little bit about me. This year, I've recently gotten into gardening, and I have these garden beds that I've set up in my front yard and my backyard, and I'm growing all kinds of vegetables. And right now, the one garden that makes me the happiest is my strawberry patch. I have a little strawberry patch, and every day I pick strawberries and eat fresh strawberries, and I absolutely love it. So that's just a little bit about me. All right, in this session, we're going to learn why should you learn Markdown? What exactly is it? What is unique about Markdown, and where do I start? And depending on how much time we have, I would like this to be at the end. We can make this interactive and go in and edit some Markdown in an online editor and actually see it in action. And then also, I would say once I do this presentation, save your questions for the end. So once I finish this, then I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. So let's go ahead and get started. Why learn Markdown? It's because we're in the era of writing docs like code. Code is now being continuously integrated and delivered at a very rapid and fast pace. And we need the documents for that code to also go at that same pace. So we're now transitioning. I would say we're in a new phase of writing docs like code. And what I mean by that is when you're writing technical documentation, nowadays, a lot of the source files for that text will be written in Markdown. I know for within Cisco, we host those source files on GitHub. GitHub is the developer community, worldwide developer community, where developers put their code. And now we're putting documentation into GitHub. We then author it in an IDE, an integrated developer environment. So I like to use Microsoft Visual Code, and I install plugins into it, but you can use any editor to edit that text. And then we also publish it like code. So it's, although the text is written in Markdown, there are lots of tools, free tools out there that will then convert it into HTML and display it on the web. So that's kind of what we mean by docs like code. Some common websites that use Markdown: GitHub, Stack Overflow, and Reddit. And many tools, including documentation tools like Doxygen, GitHub, and WordPress, also use Markdown. What I like most about Markdown is it was created so that it would be easily readable for the author, you, the writer. So it's very simple, very plain, and easy for you to actually read the Markdown. So here's a quote. The overriding design goal for Markdown's formatting syntax is to make it as readable as possible. All right. So what that really means is that you can focus more on the content of writing and less on the syntax of like, oh, I need to add, this symbol and this symbol to make the content do this. It's less of that and more of just focusing on the content. So this is an example. On the left-hand side, we have an ASCII doc, and on the right-hand side is an example of Markdown. So on the left-hand side, you can see that there are these plus signs, in between each line. There's these dashes and, just these little symbols to format the text. Whereas on the right-hand side, it looks almost as if how the output is going to look. It's very simple, and you can see it. The indentation that you do in Markdown is going to show up indented as the output. So when this Markdown gets converted to HTML, it's going to look pretty much like this. So it's pretty simple and easy to learn. And you'll see that later on. So what is Markdown? You'll sometimes see this symbol here. This is the symbol for Markdown. Markdown is a text to HTML conversion tool for web writers. But I'm not going to focus specifically on the tool to convert it from Markdown to HTML. I want to focus on the actual Markdown syntax so that you know how to write in Markdown, and then whatever tool that you use to convert it to the web page, it will do all the work for you behind the scenes and convert it to HTML. So Markdown allows you to write using an easy to read, easy to write, plain text format, and then convert it structurally to valid XHTML or HTML. So what this means is you don't have to learn to write HTML if you want to write for the web. So if you're writing documentation for the web, Markdown just extracts all of the HTML so you don't have to learn it and you can just focus on writing the content. So what is unique about Markdown? Well, I want to first let you know Markdown can't do everything that HTML can do. So HTML can, you could have, you can format images and create little boxes, or allows you to integrate JavaScript and CSS and have cool styles. That's not what Markdown is about. Markdown is specifically for editing text that will be displayed on the web page. And you can think of HTML as for publishing the web page. So it's for the graphical look and feel of the web page. So it's just for text. So if you wanted to create some, pretty graphical, interactive web page, then yes, go ahead and learn HTML. But if you're just going to write documentation, then I would say just learn Markdown. Of course, it doesn't hurt to learn both, but you can focus first on Markdown. And Markdown is not a substitute for HTML because it's just for writing text. And because Markdown is quick and easy to use, it does have some constraints. So what do I mean by that? So in a document, you'll have different level headings. So you'll have a level 1 heading, a level 2 heading, a level 3 heading. The constraints are, if you have a level 3, let's say, or a level 2 heading on one part of the page, and then you have another level 2 heading lower below, both of those level 2 headings are going to have the exact same font and style. You can't make one level 2 heading be blue and the other level 2 heading purple. So they're going to be, it's nice because it'll be consistent on the page. So if your link is, the links will all look the same throughout the document. They'll all have the same color, the same font. Lists will have the same style. So if you create a bulleted list, those bullets will be exactly the same, whether it's no matter where it is on the page or how many lists you have. They're all going to have the same consistent style and look and feel, which is kind of nice because as you're writing, you don't have to worry about, should I make this, I don't know, the text blue or purple, or how did I do it last time? You just annotate it like, okay, this is a link, and then it will just display as a link. Because of those constraints, there are different flavors of Markdown. So why are there different flavors? Because of the very limited features of Markdown. So at its basic core, it just has headings and lists. You can italicize text, you can bold it, but it's pretty limited in what it can do. So developers have come up with different flavors of Markdown, and the one that I recommend using is called GitHub-flavored Markdown. So it includes tables, so you can create tables in Markdown. It also allows strike-throughs and lists, bulleted lists and numbered lists. I tend to use GitHub a lot and I use tools that have GitHub-flavored Markdown. So when you come across different tools, you might want to know if let's say you're working in Markdown and something isn't displaying correctly, you might want to check, oh, does this tool use GitHub flavored Markdown or a different flavor of Markdown? But the one that I recommend learning is the GitHub flavored Markdown. So if you're thinking, okay, great, where do I start? I would recommend using an online editor. There's this website called Dillinger.io, and that's Dillinger with 2 L's. And it's an online editor. You go to the website, and on the left-hand side is a sample Markdown text. And on the right-hand side is the preview. So you can see in real time what it looks like. And after this presentation, we'll actually go to that website and we'll make some edits to it so you can see how to edit it in real time. So my first recommendation is to go to an online editor. There's lots of different online editors for Markdown. This is just the one that I use because it comes up first in Google when I look for Markdown online editor. And then I recommend using a cheat sheet. So I use this markdownguide.org/cheat sheet to look at how to structure the text. So for example, if I want a heading, I just use hashtag and then the first level heading, or I use 2 of the hashtags and then the second level heading. So by putting the little hashtag before the text, you're indicating that line is going to be that type of heading. If you want to bold any text, you would use the asterisks between the text to bold it, to italicize it. Instead of having 2 asterisks before and after the text, you would only have 1 before and after. And you'll notice also that depending on the flavor of Markdown, there's another way to italicize it. So you could do 1 asterisk on either side of the word, or you could do an underscore. So you could do underscore the text underscore, and that will also italicize it. You have a block quote here, and this is an example of an ordered list. So if you wanted to make a list a numbered list in the document, write out the numbered list 1, 2, 3. There's nothing fancy about it. Like it's pretty straightforward. So once you learn the basics, I recommend referring back to the basics. You don't, the easy stuff you can memorize, but I don't always remember it. So I always have to refer back to the cheat sheet. So for example, if I want to link to an image, you use, the exclamation mark, and then it says alt text. So alt text, that's like when you hover over the image and it shows you a little what the image is, that's the text. And then you have an image which would link to the image. So I always forget, oh, is it the square brackets? Is it the parentheses? It's okay. You don't have to memorize it. You can always refer back to the cheat sheet to remember, okay, this is how I insert an image, or this is how I insert a link. So it's always nice to you're right, use the web as a tool, and you can always refer back to it. I would say then once you get your text how you want it in your online editor, you can just copy that text and then save that file locally as a .md file. And that will be your Markdown file. And to learn even more, I have links here for the Docs Like Code website. So you can learn more about, okay, what does that mean, Docs Like Code, and what is the actual process that companies use to treat Docs Like Code? And there's a bunch of great articles and tips in there. I recommend checking out GitHub Pages. So it's the GitHub website, and it will create web pages for you based on the Markdown that you write. And it's completely free. And Pandoc is great for converting files. So if you need to, if you're working and somebody gives you a document and you need to convert it to something else, convert it to Markdown or convert it to HTML, this is a great tool that will help you convert those files for you. So that was a fast run through of what is Markdown. I'd now like to open it up to questions. Clifford, are they allowed to just unmute themselves and ask questions on screen, or do they need to use the chat?
So any can work. They can unmute and ask, or if they're in a noisy place, they can just type in the chat.
Okay.
So there are a couple of questions on chat. So I think I'll sample a few of them for you. So we have Shem Joko asking, are there Markdown writing conventions, like always start a Markdown document with a certain heading, or like are there any writing conventions for Markdown?
So there are writing conventions, but it's not specific to Markdown. So typically when you're writing for the web, it doesn't matter what your source is. You always want to start with an H1, a level 1 heading. And it's sometimes recommended that your page only have one level 1 heading, and then it can have multiple level 2 headings and multiple level 3 headings. The reason for that is because if you want that web page to be searchable, to be findable through Google has to understand the purpose of that document. And if you have one level 1 heading, it will understand, okay, this page is what this is about. So that's kind of an SEO, search engine optimization best practice. It's not specific to Markdown. It's specific to writing for the web.
So I had a question myself. You talked about the different flavors of Markdown, and you say that the GitHub flavor Markdown is the best. But how do they differ? Given that all have the same extension .md in their files and they're all Markdown. So like, how do you identify the different flavors of Markdown?
Right. I would say it depends whichever tool that is being used to publish that Markdown file. So I personally work in GitHub a lot. So that's why I use GitHub-flavored Markdown. You're not, so if you're working in WordPress or some other document publishing tool, you'll want to find out from that tool what flavor of Markdown they use to render. So you can't tell from the Markdown page, from the file which flavor it uses, you would have to refer to the tool itself to see which flavor it supports. And to be honest, I've only used GitHub-flavored Markdown, so I don't know about the different flavors to be able to tell you or to compare the different ones, but they're all really, I would say they're very, very similar. Yeah, that's what I would have to say about it.
Okay, thank you for that. So if you have any other questions, you can unmute and ask your question. Anything to do with Markdown or source code or the presentation that's been given today. The floor is open. Okay, we have a question from Mark. So Mark is asking, is it okay to run Markdown in C language?
So let me think about that. So Markdown is just the text file, and whatever tool you're using to publish it, that tool to publish it to the web can be in any language. So you could, I mean, technically you could even use your own tool to publish it. And you can think of it as two separate independent items. So you have Markdown is the text that you write, and the tool that you use to publish it that will convert it, that text file, into HTML, that tool can be any programming language. It could be C, it could be anything. And so yes, you could create a tool. I'm not familiar with any tools that are written in the C language to publish Markdown, but yes, any tool can use it and convert it.
Okay, so if there are any other questions, any person can unmute.
If there aren't any questions, then let's get hands-on, and let me escape. And let's go to the website. So if everybody can go to Dillinger.io, and that's Dillinger with 2 L's. You should see an online editor. Am I still sharing the screen? I can't tell.
Yes, you can still see the screen.
Perfect. You should see this online Markdown editor. I'll give everybody a minute to go to this website. And there's lots of different Markdown online editors, but this allows you, you don't have to download any tools if you don't have any already. I like to use Visual Studio Code personally, but you can also use an online editor to help preview the output. Okay, so as you can see, the first line, we have one hashtag. I don't know if I should call it hashtag or #, or there's so many different names for this symbol. I'll just call it
works. Okay.
I'll just call it hashtag because that's, our generation uses hashtag. So okay, so you would use hashtag, and then it says Dillinger. So what this says is, on the web page, set this to a level 1 heading. So this here is the level 1 heading. And now we have, on the second line, we have two hashtags, a space, an underscore, and then the last Markdown editor ever, and then underscore. So what this does is it outputs this line as the second level heading. And in this case, the underscore tells the text to italicize it. So if we go ahead and let's remove those underscores on both the front and the back. Now you can see this is what just by itself a level 1 heading is and a level 2 heading. And I'm going to press enter. So you should now be on level 3 on line 3, and let's do a level 3 heading to see what that looks like. So 3 hashtags, and then go ahead and you can type in your name. So this is a level 1 heading, a level 2 heading, and a level 3 heading. Let me see, let's see what a level 4 heading looks like. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll call it level 4. And let's see. So what you'll notice is the hashtag is just at the beginning of the line. You don't need to put the hashtag at the end, you know, to wrap it around. And let's see, I'm going to scroll down. We'll get to images and links next, but let's see. Here, let's see, if we go to line 13, we have a list. And to indicate a list in Markdown, you just have the dash, and then you type in the list. So let's go ahead and just add to that list. Say list, enter. So you can see here, if I just want to add to the list, I just add the dash, a space, and the word list. And this gives you the example output on the right-hand side. Let's see. So remember from the slides earlier, this little mark here, it makes it a block quote. So here they're quoting this person here on the right-hand side. And that's what it looks like here. Let's scroll down to line 56. Scroll down to line 56. I wish the right-hand side would scroll down with me as I was scrolling left, but let's see. Where is it? Oh, there it is, breakdance. So to create a link, to make this breakdance link, you see if I hover over it on the left-hand corner here, when I hover over it, you can see the URL, this breakdance. So to create a link, you would put the text that you want to be a link in these square brackets. And then you would put parentheses for the URL. So this is the URL that you want it to go to, so that when somebody clicks on the breakdance link, they will go to that URL. So that's how you do, that's how you create a URL. Let's see. And do we have images? And here is some code. So what you'll notice about, let's scroll down to line 69. Where is this? Why don't I see it here installed? There it is. Okay, so if you scroll down to line 69, you'll see 3 backticks, and then you'll see SH. So that means you are setting the language of the code. So for instance, they're saying this is a shell command, meaning this is the command that you would write in the terminal. And then you would enter in the commands, and then you would end that code with 3 backticks, 1, 2, 3. You could put different code in here. So if you needed to put a code snippet of Python, you would change SH. You could change it to Python. And depending on what kind of editor you have, it will format this. I wonder, so if I were to change it to like actual Python code, let's see if it does much. Import request. So you see how on the right-hand side, it automatically turned that import word into green. It's because import is a special word in Python, and it means to import a library. So by changing this, by setting the actual name to a specific language that you're using, will automatically determine how it automatically highlights and renders in the code. If I were to, and you don't have to put in the code. So if I were to just remove Python, it still shows this right-hand side as code. It just won't know how to highlight or specific syntax because it doesn't know what language you're writing in. So you could do code with just these 3 backticks. On my keyboard, the backtick is to the left of the number 1 key. I don't know if your keyboards are a little bit different, but it's not the apostrophe. It's the back. It goes it goes in the other direction. So if you're having trouble finding it on your keyboard, on my keyboard, it's that key is just to the left of the one key. Oh, I hear make it bigger. Yes, I can make my screen bigger. There we go. All right, so I'm referring to line 69. Let's see. Does Markdown allow use of classes? No, so it's not like HTML. So you can't say, you can't have different types of classes for different level headings. So all level 2 headings are going to look exactly the same. All level 3 headings are going to look the same. All links are going to look the same. So that's it's kind of the beauty of Markdown is the consistency, but it's also not as flexible as HTML, meaning you can't set different classes to make it do different things. So it's just meant, the purpose of it is meant to have just really consistent text and make it really easy for the author to write. All right, I see the next question is how to nest lists. Oh, that's a good question. Let me scroll up to the top. Scroll up to the top here. And go ahead and play around. I hope that you're following along. I hope that you are going into the Markdown file and have fun. I want you to play, mess it up, try to break it, I want you to figure out, okay, does it allow nested lists? So Markdown is sensitive to indentation. So if I wanted a nested list, meaning a list within a list, what I would do is, let me tab over once. Let's see. There we go. List. And you can see by indenting, it understands, okay, the list that I make now is now going to be a nested list. And that's how you would do a nested list. The question, how many levels of nesting is allowed? It really depends on the tool that you're using. So if I'm doing, and every tool will be different. So I don't know if it, so if you're, let's say you're writing text in, I don't know, a README file or something, it will depend on the tool, how many times, but we can go ahead and try it here. Let's see how many times I can indent. Oops. Indent dash list. Oh, look, I can do a third one. And notice you want to bring that dash, you want to indent and then dash and then type the word. You don't want to put a dash and then indent and then type the word, because then it won't work. Let's see if I can go another level. Dash list. Let's see if that works. List. Oh, you see how this dash here, it doesn't look like this dash here. It's because I messed up. I forgot to put a space between the dash and the list. So let me just, there we go. So do you want to make sure you have dash space list? And then you can see what that looks like. And that is a nested list. So I would say it just takes practice, just practice writing it, practice seeing what works, what doesn't work. So this one, the reason why I skipped lines 6 and 7 here is because this is pretty advanced. What we're doing here, I'll go ahead and explain it, is that what you're looking at is both a link and an image. So what this is saying is the alt text is in solid. The URL is this URL right here. Oh, this URL, sorry, this URL, see, even I got mixed up. This URL is the URL to the image to use. And then this URL in the parentheses is the URL that it will take you once you click on the image. So this line 6 here is represented by this image and link here. So it's saying this is the URL for the image so that it renders this image. And then the URL in the parentheses is the link. So it means when I click on this image, go to this link. So we'll click it, see if it works. Hey, it works. So now that is how you make, you turn an image into a link. Let's see. And then this one is the same thing. This represents this image here, which is also a link. So you have the alt text, the URL to the image, and then the URL once the person clicks on it. So you can combine, you can make an image a link. If you just want to display an image and not make it a link, then all you would have to do is remove this URL, because let's say we want to not make it a link and just an image. So we'll remove the URL, including the parentheses. And then you'll remove the square brackets on the outside of this line, line 8. I'm going to remove that. I'm going to remove that. And now you can see this is just an image. So when I hover over it, I can't click on it. It's just an image. All right. That's all I have today. If are there any other questions or concerns about anything?
I have a question. You mentioned Visual Studio Code earlier, and I wanted to try to get a sense of like how you would view. So like how we're viewing it online here, how do you view the output in Visual Studio Code? Because I imagine you can just save the file as the markdown file, but then how do you actually view it to make sure that it's doing what you expect it to do?
So Visual Studio Code has, you can install a plugin into it. So let's open it up. And there is a free version of it. So you can download it for free. I have the free version on my computer. Let me bring it down here. Hold on. It popped up on my other screen. Let me just create a new file. So I'm going to create a new file. I'll just call it test.md. Oh, I created a folder. That's not what I want. There we go. Test.md. What? Test1.md. Okay, so this is the markdown file. So let me just copy all this. I just do Control A, Control C, Control V, paste it here. So in Visual Studio Code, it just, this just shows me the markdown. And let's see, to preview it, let's see if I have a previewer in here. So what I would need to do is install an extension. Whenever I install an extension, I like to do one that has a lot of downloads. So you can see next to the cloud image, this one says 4.1 million. So it's been downloaded quite a few times. So I'll go with this one. Let me install it.
Hi, Adrienne. I'm not sure that one has a preview. You could use the third one, Markdown Preview Enhanced.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so this one, it helps you type the code with, keyboard shortcuts, but I don't see that it will preview it. So yeah, let's do this one. Preview, there we go. So that on the left-hand side, you can code, and on the right-hand side, you can preview it. So we can click on install. And so what you would do is just install this extension, and then you can run it in Visual Studio Code and see the code on the left and the preview on the right. It might take a minute to install. Are there any other questions? Okay, well, again, thank you all for spending your Saturday with me. Yeah, I know that you could be out doing other things, and I hope you learned something. I will pass the slides along. I can share them with you. I don't know, maybe Clifford, you could help me do that. And I hope everyone has a good rest of your day.
Okay, thank you so much, Adrienne. I'm so glad you got to take us through Markdown. I learned a lot. I actually didn't know you could have an image and a link write an image and a link together. So I got to learn that. So if there are no more questions, I think we can take a few remarks from the audience. We'll have like 2 or 3 people share what they've learned today and how they feel about our session today. So if you're willing to share a remark or give a thank you to the speaker, now I think now is the time. We'll just give you a minute or 2 to do so.
I just want to say thank you so much for answering my question and for the presentation. I learned a lot. Like I knew about Markdown, just like familiar with it, but going through it and seeing like different tools to use, especially online. Thank you so much. That was really informative. It was really informative. I think you did a great job.
Good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'd also love to say thank you. I also learned about the image and the link part. I also didn't know about that part. I also got to learn about the Dillinger, the online editor. And then I also learned about VS Code. I have never really wrote an article on VS Code, but I think now I will try doing that. So all because of you. Thank you very much. It was really an informative session. In Kenya, we say asante sana.
Thank you so much, Brian. Anyone else? Okay. Okay. I think silence means that there are no more remarks. Thank you so much, Adrienne, for the wonderful session. Thank you for taking your time to take us through this session. We're really grateful as a community at large. We have WhatsApp group and a Telegram channel and Twitter handle. So to get access to a Telegram channel, you'll have to request access through a form. I shared our Twitter handle. I'll just reshare it right now. Just a minute. So I just shared the link to our Twitter handle. We have a pinned tweet where you can send a request to join our Telegram channel, and an email with a link will be sent to you. So I hope we get to meet in future sessions and get to interact and learn more about documentation. So have a lovely evening, guys. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.